Section 50 of the Book of Household Management. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Book of Household Management by Isabella Beeton. Recipes. Chapter 23, Part 1. Roast black cock. 1019. Ingredients: black cock, butter, toast. Mode. Let these birds hang for a few days, or they will be tough and tasteless, if not well kept. Pluck and draw them, and wipe the insides and outsides with a damp cloth, as washing spoils the flavour. Cut off the heads, and truss them, the same as a roast fowl, cutting off the toes, and scalding and peeling the feet. Trussing them with the head on, as shown in the engraving, is still practised by many cooks, but the former method is now considered the best. Put them down to a brisk fire, well baste them with butter, and serve with a piece of toast under, and a good gravy and bread sauce. After trussing, some cooks cover the breast with vine leaves and slices of bacon, and then roast them. They should be served in the same manner and with the same accompaniments as with plainly roasted birds. Time. 45 to 50 minutes. Average cost, from 5s. to 6s. the brace, but seldom bought. Sufficient, 2 or 3 for a dish. Seasonable, from the middle of August to the end of December. The black cock, heathcock, moorfowl, or heath poult. This bird sometimes weighs as much as 4 pounds, and the hen about 2. It is at present confined to the more northern parts of Britain, culture and extending population having united in driving it into more desolate regions, except, perhaps, in a few of the more wild and less frequented portions of England. It may still be found in the New Forest in Hampshire, Dartmoor and Sedgemoor in Devonshire, and among the hills of Somersetshire contiguous to the latter. It may also be found in Staffordshire, in North Wales, and again in the north of England, but nowhere so plentiful as in some parts of the Highlands of Scotland. The males are hardly distinguishable from the females until they are about half grown, when the black feathers begin to appear, first about the sides and breast. Their food consists of the tops of birch and heath, except when the mountain berries are ripe, at which period they eagerly and even voraciously pick the bilberries and cranberries from the bushes. Large numbers of these birds are found in Norway, almost rivalling the turkey in point of size. Some of them have begun to be imported into London, where they are vended in the shops, but the flavour of their flesh is not equal to that of the Scotch bird. Hashed wild duck. 1020. Ingredients: the remains of cold roast wild duck, 1 pint of good brown gravy, 2 tablespoonfuls of bread crumbs, 1 glass of claret, salt, cayenne, and mixed spices to taste, 1 tablespoonful of lemon or Seville orange juice. Mode. Cut the remains of the duck into neat joints, put them into a stewpan, with all the above ingredients, let them get gradually hot by the side of the fire, and occasionally stir the contents. When on the point of boiling, serve, and garnish the dish with sippets of toasted bread. Time. About 1/4 hour. Seasonable from November to February. Ragout of wild duck. 1021. Ingredients: 2 wild ducks, 4 shallots, 1 pint of stock No. 105, 1 glass of port wine, 1 oz. of butter, a little flour, the juice of half lemon, cayenne and salt to taste. Mode. Ducks that have been dressed and left from the preceding day will answer for this dish. Cut them into joints, reserve the legs, wings, and breasts until wanted. Put the trimmings into a stewpan with the shallots and stock, and let them simmer for about half an hour, and strain the gravy. Put the butter into a stewpan. When melted, dredge in a little flour, and pour in the gravy made from the bones. Give it one boil, and strain it again. Add the wine, lemon juice, and cayenne. Lay in pieces of duck, and let the whole gradually warm through, but do not allow it to boil, or the duck will be hard. The gravy should not be too thick, and should be very highly seasoned. The squeeze of a Seville orange is a great improvement to this dish. Time. About half an hour to make the gravy, 1/4 of an hour for the duck gradually to warm through. Seasonable from November to February. Roast wild duck. 1022. Ingredients: wild duck, flour, butter. Mode. Carefully pluck and draw them. Cut off the heads close to the necks, leaving sufficient skin to turn over, and do not cut off the feet. Some twist each leg at the knuckle, and rest the claws on each side of the breast. Others truss them as shown in our illustration. Roast the birds before a quick fire, and when they are first put down, let them remain for 5 minutes without basting. This will keep the gravy in. Afterwards, baste plentifully with butter, and a few minutes before serving, dredge them lightly with flour. Baste well, and send them to table nicely frothed, and full of gravy. If overdone, the birds will lose their flavour. Serve with a good gravy in the dish, or orange gravy, No. 488, and send to table with them a cut lemon, to take off the fishy taste which wild fowl sometimes have. Baste them for a few minutes with hot water, to which have been added an onion and a little salt. Then take away the pan, and baste with butter. See coloured plate G1. Time. When liked underdressed, 20 to 25 minutes. Well done, 25 to 35 minutes. Average cost, 4s. to 5s. the couple. Sufficient, 2 for a dish. Seasonable from November to February. The wild duck. The male of the wild duck is called a mallard, and the young ones are called flappers. The time to try to find a brood of these is about the month of July, among the rushes of the deepest and most retired parts of some brook or stream, where, if the old bird is sprung, it may be taken as a certainty that its brood is not far off. When once found, flappers are easily killed, as they attain their full growth before their wings are fledged. Consequently, the sport is more like hunting water rats than shooting birds. When the flappers take wing, they assume the name of wild ducks, and about the month of August repair to the cornfields, where they remain until they are disturbed by the harvest people. They then frequent the rivers pretty early in the evening, and give excellent sport to those who have patience to wait for them. In order to know a wild duck, it is necessary only to look at the claws, which should be black. Hashed game, cold meat cookery. 1023. Ingredients: the remains of cold game, 1 onion stuck with 3 cloves, a few whole peppers, a strip of lemon peel, salt to taste, thickening of butter and flour, 1 glass of port wine, 1 tablespoonful of lemon juice, 1 tablespoonful of ketchup, 1 pint of water or weak stock. Mode. Cut the remains of cold game into joints, reserve the best pieces, and the inferior ones and trimmings put into a stewpan with the onion, pepper, lemon peel, salt, and water or weak stock. Stew these for about an hour, and strain the gravy, thicken it with butter and flour, add the wine, lemon juice, and ketchup, lay in the pieces of game, and let them gradually warm through by the side of the fire. Do not allow it to boil, or the game will be hard. When on the point of simmering, serve and garnish the dish with sippets of toasted bread. Time. Altogether, 1 1/4 hour. Seasonable from August to March. Note. Any kind of game may be hashed by the above recipe, and flavour may be varied by adding flavoured vinegars, curry powder, &c., but we cannot recommend these latter ingredients, as a dish of game should really have a gamey taste, and if too many sauces, essences, &c., are added to the gravy, they quite overpower and destroy the flavour the dish should possess. Grouse pie. 1024. Ingredients: grouse, cayenne, salt and pepper to taste, 1 lb. of rump steak, a 1/2 pint of well seasoned broth, puff paste. Mode. Line the bottom of a pie dish with the rump steak cut into neat pieces, and should the grouse be large, cut them into joints, but if small, they may be laid in the pie whole. Season highly with salt, cayenne, and black pepper, pour in the broth, and cover with a puff paste. Brush the crust over with the yolk of an egg, and bake from 3/4 to 1 hour. If the grouse is cut into joints, the backbones and trimmings will make the gravy, by stewing them with an onion, a little sherry, a bunch of herbs, and a blade of mace. This should be poured in after the pie is baked. Time. 3/4 to 1 hour. Average cost, exclusive of the grouse, which are seldom bought, 1s. 9d. Seasonable from the 12th of August to the beginning of December. Roast grouse. 1025. Ingredients: grouse, butter, a thick slice of toasted bread. Mode. Let the birds hang as long as possible, pluck and draw them, wipe but do not wash them inside and out, and truss them without the head, the same as for a roast fowl. Many persons still continue to truss them with the head under the wing, but the former is now considered the most improved method. Put them down to a sharp clear fire, keep them well basted the whole of the time they are cooking, and serve them on a buttered toast, soaked in the dripping pan, with a little melted butter poured over them, or with bread sauce and gravy. See coloured plate L1. Time. Half an hour. If liked very thoroughly done, 35 minutes. Average cost, 2s. to 2s. 6d. the brace, but seldom bought. Sufficient, 2 for a dish. Seasonable from the 12th of August to the beginning of December. Grouse. These birds are divided into wood grouse, black grouse, red grouse, and white grouse. The wood grouse is further distinguished as the cock of the wood, or capercailzie, and is as large as the turkey, being about 2 feet 9 inches in length, and weighing from 12 to 15 pounds. The female is considerably less than the male, and in the colour of her feathers differs widely from the other. This beautiful species is found principally in lofty, mountainous regions, and is very rare in Great Britain, but in the pine forests of Russia, Sweden, and other northern countries it is very common. In these it has its habitat, feeding on the cones of the trees, and the fruits of various kinds of plants, especially the berry of the jumper. Black grouse is also distinguished as black game, or the black cock. It is not larger than the common hen, and weighs only about 4 pounds. The female is about 1/3 less than the male, and also differs considerably from him in point of colour. Like the former, they are found chiefly in high situations, and are common in Russia, Siberia, and other northern countries. They are also found in the northern parts of Great Britain, feeding in winter on the various berries and fruits belonging to mountainous countries, and in summer frequently descending to the lower lands to feed upon corn. The red grouse, boarcock, or moorcock, weighs about 19 ounces, and the female somewhat less. In the wild heathy tracts of the northern counties of England it is plentiful, also in Wales and the Highlands of Scotland. Mr. Pennant considered it peculiar to Britain, those found in the mountainous parts of Spain, France, and Italy, being only varieties of the same bird. White grouse, white game, or ptarmigan, is nearly the same size as the red grouse, and is found in lofty situations, where it supports itself in the severest weather. It is to be met with in most of the northern countries of Europe, and appears even in Greenland. In the Hebrides, Orkneys, and Highlands of Scotland it is also found, and sometimes, though rarely, among the fells of Northumberland and Cumberland. In winter they fly in flocks, and are so little familiar with the sight of man that they are easily shot and even snared. They feed on the wild produce of the hills, which sometimes imparts to their flesh a bitter but not unpalatable taste. According to Beeton, it is dark coloured, and somewhat flavoured like the hare. Grouse Salad. Soyer's Recipe. 1026. Ingredients: 8 eggs, butter, fresh salad, 1 or 2 grouse. For the sauce, 1 teaspoonful of minced shallot, 1 teaspoonful of powdered sugar, the yolk of 1 egg, 1 teaspoonful of minced parsley, 1/4 oz. of salt, 4 tablespoonfuls of oil, 2 tablespoonfuls of Chili vinegar, 1 gill of cream. Mode. Boil the eggs hard, shell them, throw them into cold water, cut a thin slice off the bottom to facilitate the proper placing of them in the dish, cut each one into 4 lengthwise, and make a very thin flat border of butter, about 1 inch from the edge of the dish the salad is to be served on. Fix the pieces of egg upright close to each other, the yolk outside, or the yolk and white alternately. Lay in the centre a fresh salad of whatever is in season, and, having previously roasted the grouse rather underdone, cut it into 8 or 10 pieces, and prepare the sauce as follows: put the shallots into a basin, with the sugar, the yolk of an egg, the parsley and salt, and mix in by degrees the oil and vinegar. When these ingredients are well mixed, put the sauce on ice or in a cool place. When ready to serve, whip the cream rather thick, which lightly mix with it, then lay the inferior parts of the grouse on the salad, sauce over so as to cover each piece, then lay over the salad and the remainder of the grouse. Pour the rest of the sauce over, and serve. The eggs may be ornamented with a little dot of radishes or beetroot on the point. Anchovy and gherkin, cut into small diamonds, may be placed between, or cut gherkins in slices, and a border of them laid round. Tarragon or chervil leaves are also a pretty addition. The remains of cold black game, pheasant, or partridge may be used in the above manner, and will make a very delicate dish. Average cost, 2s. 6d. Seasonable from the 12th of August to the beginning of December. The capercailzie. This bird was to be met with formerly both in Ireland and Scotland, but is now extinct. The male lives separate from the females, except in the breeding season. Its manners and habits are very like those of black grouse, except that it seems to be wholly confined to forests of pine, on the tender shoots of which it feeds. It is by no means uncommon in the woods of Norway, whence we received it. It is also found abundant in Russia, Siberia, Italy, and in some portions of the Alps. It was in 1760 last seen in Scotland, in the woods of Strathglass. Recent attempts have been made to reintroduce it into that country, but without success, principally owing, as we should imagine, to the want of sufficient food suitable for its sustenance. Grouse. Under this general term are included several species of game birds, called black, red, woodland, and white grouse. The black is larger than the red, see No. 1025, and is not so common, and therefore held in higher estimation. The red, however, is a bird of exquisite flavour, and is a native of the mountainous districts of Scotland and the north of England. It feeds on the tops of the heath and the berries that grow amongst them. Its colour is a rich chestnut, striped with black. The woodland, or cock of the wood, is the largest among the bird tribes, which pass under the denomination of game. It is smaller now than the turkey, and was originally common in our mountains, but it is now to be found only in the mountains of Scotland, though it still abounds in the north of Europe, Germany, and in the Alps. It is esteemed as delicious eating, and its plumage is extremely beautiful. The white grouse, or ptarmigan, is not a plentiful bird in Britain, but it is still found in the islands, and weighs about half a pound. The London market is supplied by Norway and Scotland, those from the former country being esteemed the best. When young, it is held in high estimation, being considered as little different from common grouse. Roast hare. 1027. Ingredients: hare, forcemeat, No. 417, a little milk, butter. Choosing and trussing. Choose a young hare, which may be known by its smooth and sharp claws, and by the cleft in the lip not being much spread. To be eaten in perfection, it must hang for some time, and if properly taken care of, it may be kept for several days. It is better to hang without being paunched, but should it be previously emptied, wipe the inside every day, and sprinkle over it a little pepper and ginger, to prevent the musty taste which long keeping in the damp occasions, and which also affects the stuffing. After it is skinned, wash it well, and soak for an hour in warm water to draw out the blood. If old, let it lie in vinegar for a short time, but wash it well afterwards in several waters. Make a forcemeat by recipe No. 417. Wipe the hare dry, fill the belly with it, and sew it up. Bring the hind and fore legs close to the body towards the head. Run a skewer through each. Fix the head between the shoulders by means of another skewer, and be careful to leave the ears on. Pat a string round the body from skewer to skewer, and tie it above the back. Mode. The hare should be kept at a distance from the fire when it is first laid down, or the outside will become dry and hard before the inside is done. Baste it well with milk for a short time, and afterwards with butter, and particular attention must be paid to the basting, so as to preserve the meat on the back juicy and nutritive. When it is almost roasted enough, flour the hare, and baste well with butter. When nicely frothed, dish it, remove the skewers, and send it to table with a little gravy in the dish, and a tureen of the same. Red currant jelly must also not be forgotten, as this is an indispensable accompaniment to roast hare. For economy, good beef dripping may be substituted for the milk and butter to baste with, but the basting, as we have before stated, must be continued without intermission. If the liver is good, it may be parboiled, minced, and mixed with the stuffing, but it should not be used unless quite fresh. See coloured plate E1. Time. A middling sized hare, 1 1/4 hour. A large hare, 1 1/2 to 2 hours. Average cost, 4s. to 6s. Sufficient for 5 or 6 persons. Seasonable from September to the end of February. The hare. This little animal is found generally distributed over Europe, and indeed in most parts of the northern world. Its extreme timidity is the endowment which Providence has bestowed upon it as a means of defence. It is therefore attentive to every sound, and is supplied with ears both long and tubular, with which it can hear with great acuteness. Its eyes, also, are so constructed, and placed so prominent in its head, that it can see both before and behind it. It lives entirely upon vegetables, but its flesh is considered dry, notwithstanding that it is deemed, in many respects, superior to that of the rabbit, being more savoury, and of a much higher flavour. Its general time of feeding is in the evening, but during the day, if not disturbed, it adheres closely to its form. Potted hare, a luncheon or breakfast dish. 1028. Ingredients: 1 hare, a few slices of bacon, a large bunch of savoury herbs, 4 cloves, half teaspoon of whole allspice, 2 carrots, 2 onions, salt and pepper to taste, 1 pint of water, 2 glasses of sherry. Mode. Skin, empty, and wash the hare, cut it down the middle, and put it into a stewpan, with a few slices of bacon under and over it. Add the remaining ingredients, and stew very gently until the hare is tender, and the flesh will separate easily from the bones. When done enough, take it up, remove the bones, and pound the meat with the bacon in a mortar, until reduced to a perfectly smooth paste. Should it not be sufficiently seasoned, add a little cayenne, salt, and pounded mace, but be careful that these are well mixed with the other ingredients. Press the meat into potting pots, pour over clarified butter, and keep in a dry place. The liquor that the hare was stewed in should be saved for hashes, soups, etc., etc. Time. About 2½ hours to stew the hare. Seasonable from September to the end of February. Broiled hare, a supper or luncheon dish. 1029. Ingredients: the leg and shoulders of a roast hare, cayenne and salt to taste, a little butter. Mode. Cut the legs and shoulders of a roast hare, season them highly with salt and cayenne, and broil them over a very clear fire for 5 minutes. Dish them on a hot dish, rub over them a little cold butter, and send to table very quickly. Time. 5 minutes. Seasonable from September to the end of February. Hashed hare. 1030. Ingredients: the remains of cold roast hare, 1 blade of pounded mace, 2 or 3 allspice, pepper and salt to taste, 1 onion, a bunch of savoury herbs, 3 tablespoonfuls of port wine, thickening of butter and flour, 2 tablespoonfuls of mushroom ketchup. Mode. Cut the cold hare into neat slices, and put the head, bones, and trimmings into a stewpan, with 3/4 pint of water. Add the mace, allspice, seasoning, onion, and herbs, and stew for nearly an hour, and strain the gravy, thicken it with butter and flour, add the wine and ketchup, and lay in the pieces of hare, with any stuffing that may be left. Let the whole gradually heat by the side of the fire, and when it has simmered for about 5 minutes, serve, and garnish the dish with sippets of toasted bread. Send red currant jelly to table with it. Time. Rather more than 1 hour. Average cost, exclusive of the cold hare, 6d. Seasonable from September to the end of February. Jugged hare. Very good. 1031. Ingredients: 1 hare, 1 to 1 1/2 lb. of gravy beef, 1/2 lb. of butter, 1 onion, 1 lemon, 6 cloves, pepper, cayenne, and salt to taste, 1/2 pint of port wine. Mode. Skin, paunch, and wash the hare, cut it into pieces, dredge them with flour, and fry in boiling butter. Have ready 1 to 1 1/2 pint of gravy, made from the above proportion of beef, and thicken with a little flour. Put this into a jar, add the pieces of fried hare, an onion stuck with 6 cloves, a lemon peeled and cut in half, and a good seasoning of pepper, cayenne, and salt. Cover the jar down tightly, put it up to the neck into a stewpan of boiling water, and let it stew until the hare is quite tender, taking care to keep the water boiling. When nearly done, pour in the wine, and add a few forcemeat balls made by recipe No. 417. These must be fried or baked in the oven for a few minutes before they are put to the gravy. Serve with red currant jelly. Time. 3 1/2 to 4 hours. If the hare is very old, allow 4 1/2 hours. Average cost, 7s. Sufficient for 7 or 8 persons. Seasonable from September to the end of February. 2. A quicker and more economical way. 1032. Ingredients: 1 hare, a bunch of sweet herbs, 2 onions, each stuck with 3 cloves, 6 whole allspice, half a teaspoonful of black pepper, a strip of lemon peel, thickening of butter and flour, 2 tablespoonfuls of mushroom ketchup, a quart pint of port wine. Mode. Wash the hare nicely, cut it up into joints, not too large, and flour and brown them as in the preceding recipe. Then put them into a stewpan with the herbs, onions, cloves, allspice, pepper, and lemon peel. Cover with hot water, and when it boils, carefully remove all the scum, and let it simmer gently till tender, which will be in about 1 3/4 hour, or longer should the hare be very old. Take out the pieces of hare, thicken the gravy with flour and butter, add the ketchup and port wine, let it boil for about 10 minutes, strain it through a sieve over the hare, and serve. A few fried forcemeat balls should be added at the moment of serving, or instead of frying them, they may be stewed in the gravy, about 10 minutes before the hare is wanted for table. Do not omit to serve red currant jelly with it. Time. Altogether 2 hours. Average cost, 5s. 6d. Sufficient for 7 or 8 persons. Seasonable from September to the end of February. Note. Should there be any left, re-warm it the next day by putting the hare, &c., into a covered jar, and placing this jar in a saucepan of boiling water. This method prevents a great deal of waste. Section 50.